Okay, so let's continue with this idea of this horizontal movement, and we talked about the octave thing. Now, I'll show you another thing that you'll hear this in the Allman Brothers and a lot of rock, but Hendrix likes the sound of this too, and you'll hear this a lot, where you're going to move up those scales again. Right? So we'll be moving in fourths. B to E is a fourth. D to G is a fourth. E to A is a fourth, right? Now, if we want to continue this pattern up, notice we're using, you can use fingers 1 and 2. I use fingers 1 and 3 a lot because I just feel like it gives me a little more room. But 1 and 2 is fine. And what I'm keying in on is, again, those notes from the scales. So you could look at your second string finger and use that as your guide, and this finger is just along for the ride. So you're looking for E, G, A, G, E. I think what I'm keying in on is the third string. So I'm looking at a B, a D, an E, a D, and a B. So I'm going, right? There's my D, E, D. So that's the lick, okay? And you can put that vibrato on at the end. But you need to figure out what you're going to key in on, this one or this one. You don't want to be thinking like +3, -2, add 9, I'm on a dot, I'm not on a dot. You're going to get lost. So know where you are on the neck. Okay, let's try this with the recording, slow tempo. And for the rhythm part, we're just going to keep it pretty simple. I'll probably just play these triads again. Maybe with some of that muting stuff. So I'll do that, and then this is idea 20. All right, now that feels pretty quick, even in a slow tempo, right? That's why it's so important that you know where you are on the neck, because we're going to speed it up, and you have to really know where you're going, or you're just going to step on a landmine. So let's do the same thing a little bit faster. Okay, so you can see how challenging that is when we start moving horizontally, especially when we have 2 fingers down and we're not doing the single note thing. You really have to know where you are. Hey, buddy. And where you're going, so you can get in and out of it pretty effectively. Now, since we've been doing some sliding around, let's look at our last rhythm on the sheet, This is example 14, and this is another slidey one as well. So we're going to take that triad I was just playing, and we're going to go like this. That's our C chord. Now we have to swap the finger here. So this becomes this, right? So you have to make a little bit of a jump. Make your move. Right, so that's our A chord, but we're doing this fourth sliding. This is a fourth. Ending on our triad. That's a fourth of our G chord. The D and the G, that interval is a fourth. And then we move up. So you have to really key in again to the root note, or you kind of have to pick your poison. Like, how are you gonna see these things? So let me play this slowly for you. All right, let's try it with the track. So you notice you get some dissonance on that A chord, that second and fourth chord. Right there you get a little bite, but that's the point, that's the tension, and then you get off of it. And if you sit there, it'll sound weird, but... So sliding in and, approaching a chord shape like that from a half step below or above is a pretty common thing to do. You hear this like in rhythm guitar all the time, where like if you're approaching like this E, right? And if I'm gonna play it with the ninth chord. So I'm coming below the E, or you can come from above. You hear that all the time. We're just doing it with a bigger... We're doing a whole step approach, so, right? Okay, so we're going to do that with the recording, and then we're going to look at this last bend. We've done this before. We did it here. We did it here. Now we're going to move, so you're going to go. And you can start low. And go high. It doesn't matter, because we're using that pentatonic scale as a guide, and you can do it. I didn't write this out, but you could, now that you know how to find E minor pentatonic across the neck, like E, G, A, B, D, E. You'll hear this all the time. Hendrix really, really utilizes this a lot. And you can, add in more diatonic notes. And you can do it on other strings as well. So if you know where this A is, A, B, D, E, G, A. And you can combine the two. But for right now, we're just going to do this. Okay, so that's going to be our lick. So I'm keying into, it doesn't matter if you're looking at this. You need to see, those are the notes from the scale. If you're keying into the third string, this 10's not in there because it should be the E. So this is an F note, and it's going to sound weird against an E chord, but what we're doing is we're bending it up. And we are bending to that G over an E chord with a G sharp in it, but we're moving on. So this is the resolve. Okay, so let's try this. And then we're going to do this lick. Okay, we'll do it with the slow version. Let's go up this time. Maybe go one more. Because we want to resolve that E chord. Down. Okay, so now you have E minor pentatonic mapped across the neck. You've got a bunch of rhythm ideas, and you've got these melodic ideas, these licks. And I think the best thing to do is to turn on the recording, the backing track at the slower tempo, and start working this out in real time as you play through the song. And you could keep it as simple and repetitive as you want to, or if you feel like you have the stuff down pretty well, then just mix up the rhythms and mix up the licks. I remember reading this book by the Navy SEAL Jocko Willink. I'm sure you've heard of him. He's got a big podcast and stuff. But he's got this thing about discipline, and I thought it was a really great way to think about this. That if you want freedom to do what you want in any aspect of your life, you're going to need to be disciplined. And a lot of people, when they watch musicians, if you see video of Jimi Hendrix, he's pretty free. He's pretty free in his playing. He's very fluid, and he's just always in the moment. And he could jam with anybody. He had great ears, and he could sit in with people. And a lot of people think, oh, well, I'll just never have that kind of talent. If you read biographies of Jimi Hendrix, and you read, accounts of people that worked with him and lived with him, toured with him, he was obsessed with guitar, and he would learn everything he could off of records. He was always studying. He slept with his guitar. He took it everywhere with him. So I think that's what Jocko Willink is getting at, is if you want to be free in your playing and you want to get better, it's going to require some investment and some discipline, which means we're going to rub right up against that inner critic in our heads that's telling us that we're not good enough, we're never going to get it, it's too hard, I should do it tomorrow, or why are you doing this, it's a waste of time. If you want to do this, I've intentionally laid this course out in a way that you could work on this stuff on your own and do it in pieces, but now you know how to approach it and you know how to be disciplined with it, where you could start to put the pieces together. And that's my hope. That was my design of the course, is to introduce maybe late beginners or beginning intermediate guitar players, whatever all that is. But you know where you are in this. And when I work with people in the studio, in person or online, this is the approach I take with them. I really love Jimi Hendrix. He's one of my all-time favorite guitar players. He always has been. He still is. Uh, but I remember what it was like trying to make sense of his guitar playing. It was very overwhelming, and I didn't think I was ever going to get it. And this is one of the first songs that I ever really learned, and I learned a lot from it because I started to realize what he was doing with these different chord shapes, how he was moving between chord shapes, playing some licks, and just kind of like weaving his way through the chord progression. And one of the things that's always appealed to me about Hendrix is how free he is in his playing. Like, he can just be in the moment and he's just playing, and he's responding to what he just played. And he might be improvising and hear something that he likes, and then he starts riffing on it. He starts developing it. And you can hear that in the live recordings. You can hear it in the studio outtakes. So it's that idea of being present and paying attention, but not holding on to things too tightly or too dearly, and developing them and letting them unfold. And you hear this in Jimmy Page's guitar playing too, and you hear this in the band in Led Zeppelin. Like, they recorded live together. So if you want these elements in your guitar playing, it seems counterintuitive, but you want to be disciplined about it. You have to sit down and work these things out, because all of these great guitar players did. So my hope is that by now you feel comfortable enough with the information that you can turn on the recording and just jam along playing these different rhythm parts, weave in and out of these lead ideas, and kind of bounce back and forth, like single note stuff like we did, triads, chords, any of these, like any of that kind of stuff, and being able to freely move between rhythm and licks, play a simple open rhythm part, play that octave, that fast crazy lick, play a more complicated rhythm part, and play something more open, like that bend stuff we were doing, any of that stuff. So my hope is that you feel more free in your abilities, but that it's tied to knowledge and an increase in your technique and your expansion of the fretboard. I've had a lot of fun designing this course and working on it and putting these pieces together. And I promise you, if you take the time to look at these little pieces individually, the rhythm parts or these, these licks, these improv ideas, and you tie them to the scales we talked about, the triads, the chord shapes, and where you are on the neck, you're going to open up the neck in a way that's going to carry on with you. You'll take this to other things that you work on. So have fun with it. Be patient with yourself. Work out the ideas. Make them your own. Improvise with them. And thanks for tuning in. It's been a lot of fun, and I'll see you soon.